Incorporated. Whereas by County Board Resolution 2013-611-099, dated June 11, 2013, JDB Consulting Services, Inc., an Illinois corporation, was retained to advise and coordinate updates for solid waste projects. And whereas at the Finance Committee meeting on February 24, 2015, after review, consideration, and discussion, the committee recommends terminating its contract with JDB Consulting Services Incorporated and shall be deemed terminated in its entirety and no longer in full force and effect. Whereas the County of Kankakee agrees to pay JDB Consulting Services Inc. a sum of $100,000, and JDB Consulting Services Inc. shall fully and conditionally release the county from any claims it may have or purport to have arising from or out of the June 14, 2013 agreement, and the agreement shall terminate upon payment of $100,000. Whereas if any additional services are needed in the future, the county would pay JDB Consulting Services Inc. $195 on an hourly basis for their services, and in the event a host agreement proposal is tendered for siting a pollution control facility within the County of Kankakee, then JDB Consulting Services Inc. would be entitled to a residual payment of lodestar fee payout at the rate of 10 cents per ton and would be limited to a 4-year period. Exhibit A.
The drafting error, that should read retention.
Whereas if any additional services are needed in the future, the county would pay JDB Consulting Services Inc. $195 on an hourly basis for their services, and in the event a host agreement proposal is tendered for siting a pollution control facility within the County of Kankakee, then JDB Consulting Services Inc. would be entitled to a residual payment of lodestar fee payout at the rate of 10 cents per ton and would be limited to a 10-year period. Now therefore be it resolved by the Kankakee County Board that the County Board Chairman or its designee, after review, consideration, and discussion, is hereby authorized to sign the agreement with JDB Consulting Services Inc. to terminate the contract in its entirety, and the agreement shall have no further force and effect upon payment of $100,000. Now therefore be it further resolved by the Kankakee County Board, in the event further consulting services are needed, a fee of $195 per hour will be paid to JDB Consulting Services Inc. Now therefore be it further resolved that if a pollution control facility receives final unappealable siting approval and such pollution control facility is permitted, developed, and commences receipt of waste, and JDB Consulting Services Inc. will be paid lodestar fee of 10 cents per ton of waste permanently disposed of for a 10-year period.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt this resolution, please?
So moved.
Mr. Washington. Is there a second, please? Mr. Einfeld. Finance Committee report, yes. Read the vote in the committee.
The committee recommends the adoption of this resolution here was submitted, voting aye, Mr. Washington, Mr. Stauffenberg, Mr. Lear, Ms. Peters, Mr. Payton, Mr. Bossert, voting nay, Mr. Ennis.
Mr. Whitus would like to comment.
First, I just want to say I'm 100% in favor of ending this contract, and I think we all are. I do have some reservations, which I've talked to Mr. Bossert about, in regards to this agreement that we've come up with. This has gone on too long, and we all understand that. We need to get to this resolution point. My two concerns are how this came about is Mr. Bossert and I were on a phone call with Mr. Helsten, and we directed him to terminate our contract. My concerns are is that I want it to be a termination agreement without any future promisement of any work. So I have a problem with the $195,000, which I know some other people do. I also have with $195 an hour. I'm sorry. I don't think that needs to be in there. And if we do need any more consulting advice, I think it needs to come before this board and PZA to approve that, so we don't get in the situation we were currently in. I also don't know if it's justified to have the 10 cents for 10 years. I would like I know Mr. Helsten's here. I would like to hear from him to see why that is needed. I know we've had this contract for 20 months. I mean, and potential liability is what I'm all about ending going forward. But I don't know if our potential liability matches the 170 that we'll pay, as well as the potential payments that this contract creates a liability for us. That's my position.
Maybe at this point, Mr. Helsten is here. Let's invite him in to answer your question. We can do that. He's in the room. I'm sorry. Morning, Chuck.
Morning.
Chuck Helsten has represented the county for many years on environmental issues. He is a well-respected member of the bar who specializes in environmental law. And board members who've been on for a while all know him very well. So, Chuck, as you heard the comment, some concerns about some particulars on this agreement.
Sure, they're valid concerns. First of all, thank you for the applause. Even if that was from my friends at Power, I used to get compliments from them all the time when I depleted the 2 town and country landfills and the second waste management landfill. But for some reason, now I'm Lucifer incarnate, where before I was, I was the deliverer. But in any event, these are valid concerns that were raised. But let me put this into context. Okay, I was asked to terminate the agreement. Okay, termination of the agreement is the easy part of it. All the county board has to do, if you look at the original agreement, is indicate to JDB Consultants it's terminated. That's done. That's not the hard part. So when Mr. Bruck said I didn't do what I was supposed to do, JDB Consultants has been told this agreement is no longer workable. It is in essence terminated. But the issue is one of the gentlemen that just said is, what do you do with the residual potential liability that's out there? That's my job, is to try to compromise the residual liability. I negotiated with JDB, knowing the potential exposure, and of course, at some point in time in this conversation, I know that the county board leadership likes to keep this in open session. I think that's admirable to keep it in open session, but there is always the potential for litigation over this. So if we get into questions that deal with legal strategy, it would be my recommendation to the state's attorney and to the county board chairman that you go into executive session. That's why the Illinois legislature provided that exception, so you don't compromise your position and talk about things in public that your potential opponent, JDB Consultants, can use in court. That's only wise. That's only prudent. But let's see how far we can go before we get there. When I was asked to look at this in December, that was my charge, to look at this in December, based upon 34 years of experience in the solid waste business, most recently negotiating successfully for your neighbors to the north, Kankakee County, on 2 major landfill proposals. Will County. I'd look at this and say, okay, the amount agreed to per month was $20,000 per month. What, in my opinion, would be a reasonable time period for the services that were set forth in the agreement to be delivered? In my opinion, it's somewhere around a year, potentially less if you take, let's say it's 9 months. That may be optimistic, but if it's 9 months times 20,000, you can come up with 180,000. You've already paid 70. If you pay another 100, you're already under 9 months. I think it would be unrealistic probably to think that in any situation, in any scenario, that the object of the original agreement could probably have been consummated in under 9 months. Now, the object of the original agreement, as I read it, I wasn't part of that process, was twofold. It was both solid waste consulting. It was both solid waste consulting with your solid waste management plan, with other regulatory matters, and consulting, seeing if there was anybody interested in making a proposal to Kankakee County for a landfill. Okay? In other words, bringing a potential developer of a landfill to Kankakee County. With all due respect to my friends or former friends from Power, when I was opposing landfills for Kankakee County that the city wanted, and even the second waste management one, which we were successful on, bringing a proposal to the county doesn't mean you're going to have a landfill. As I discussed with the county board and with many of you in the audience about a year ago, that's the first step in a long process. A proposal doesn't mean you're going to get a host agreement. You have to negotiate a host agreement. Once you get a host agreement, that doesn't mean you're going to have a landfill. Then a applicant, once they have a host agreement, not until they have a host agreement, determines whether they can find an adequate site or a suitable site in the county. That takes time. Then if they can find a suitable site, at that point in time, they take a deep breath, they look at the marketplace, and they see if it's feasible to file an application, or whether there are other alternatives for disposal of waste in the service area, which would essentially be 6 or 7, generally it's 6 or 7. These are regional facilities, so it's 6 or 7, 8 counties. If they determine it's prudent to file an application, then an application is filed. Then you're going to get objectors, as Mr. Bruck said. That's his right. That's his right to do that. The appeal process, speaking of the Supreme Court, as Mr. Bruck said, took the Town and Country one to the Supreme Court and won, okay, for Kankakee County. That process all takes 8 or 9 years. Okay, so the fact that a consultant brings you someone that is tentatively interested, or at least has some preliminary interest, doesn't mean you're going to have a landfill. Doesn't mean you're going to have a landfill. What has JDB Consultants done for $20,000 a month? I think, as Mr. Bossert, as I understand it, has told you, there has been some preliminary interest. Okay, it has gone no further than that because the board has decided, and leadership has decided, before we go any further with discussions, we need to address this issue. We need to get this consulting agreement out of the way, off the table. Let's get it resolved. It's a festering wound. Let's get the thing taken care of, and then we'll go from there. Does that mean you'll negotiate a host agreement with the developer? Who knows? And before somebody asks, who are the people that are interested? Of course, like any other development, like any other industrial or commercial development, until a deal is ready to be presented to a governing body, they do not want anyone to know because of confidentiality in the marketplace. They don't want anyone to know what's going on. So you always must promise when a potential developer comes in, okay, these negotiations will remain confidential until something comes of them. Because until something comes of them, there's no reason to really air the thing in the public and compromise a potential developer. Landfill developers no different than a developer of an industrial center, a commercial center. They don't want their position compromised in the marketplace. So what have they done? They did, as I would say, network with potential developers. There has been some interest. That interest has been on hold pending resolution of these type of things. I would imagine the next step would be sitting down with a potential developer and saying, what's your term sheet? You know, what are you looking at in the abstract? Because that will tell you whether you can go any further than that. That's what I've done for counties and cities all over the state is you don't jump right to a host agreement, you go to a term sheet and you say, what's your term sheet? You know, is it even worth going any further for the county? So the way I looked at it is probably 9 months was reasonable at the price that arguably reasonable. There are arguments both ways again, and if it goes to court, there are arguments both ways. But my goal was to keep it under 9 months. If you take the 70 that you paid so far with another 100, and believe me, the negotiations started much higher than that on the other side, you're under 9 months. And the contract is over with. Okay? Now going to the other, what, Section 2 and Section 3, the $195, if you will note, it says, if you decide to retain them, doesn't mean you have to. I simply put that in there so that issue was addressed right now. If you want to address it in the future, that's your prerogative. We can take that out. We can tender to JPB just the $100,000 to terminate the contract to pay. That's fine if you want to do it that way. Section 3 we went to 2 as well. Section 3 where JPB gets the lodestar is only if you retain them. If you look at Section 2, it says if they're retained pursuant to Section 2 and if they bring a host agreement to you. Well, if you don't retain them, you never get to 3. So you never have to worry about that. But if you want that out, I understand the wisdom. I was in the back. Which gentleman made the comment about let's address that going forward? Okay, it's a legitimate concern. If you want those out, we can amend the agreement to simply terminate this agreement, liquidate this agreement, hold the former agreement no further force in effect. You're done. You're done for a price which is under 9 months of consulting service, which I think is a good result. Somebody said, another good question, what was the Section 3, what was the 10 cents per ton for? That's not for what's been done so far. That's for what's done in the future. It's a brokerage agreement. It's no different than any other brokerage agreement. It's for, if you were the procuring cause, we probably have, I know we have realtors on this board, we have other people that work on commissions. If you're the procuring cause, you get a certain amount. 10 cents a ton in this case, given a host, what I think a host fee might come into, and I don't want to get into that in open session either, because if we do negotiate with the developer, I don't want people, I don't want that stream of consciousness out. It's probably 2.5%, 2.8% of a host fee. That's not a bad finder's fee or brokerage fee. That's not exorbitant. So, but if it's the desire of the board to simply go with Section 1, we can revise. Oh, by the way, Mr. Bruck brought up a valid point. The original version did not have the termination at will provision, which I put in. I saw that was in the version. That was my fault. I didn't see that I did not put in the termination at will. I added in the most recent version, which is tendered to the board, the termination at will. So even had you gone with this version of the agreement, you could have terminated it. That's the last section. I think it's Section J. You could have terminated it on 30 days' notice going forward. So the agreement does have an end date. That was a valid concern by Mr. Bruck, that it was one I had already thought of when I when I was reviewing the last draft, I go, oh, I didn't add in there at the end the termination date into the agreement. So that is basically what my goal was going into this. Termination is easy. Termination, you just tell somebody it's terminated. It's resolving so that you don't get into litigation over the potential of 20 months at $20,000 a month. Now, are there defenses? Sure, I'm sure there are defenses. The state's attorney has articulated some, but as Voltaire said, the two most traumatic days of my life were when I lost a lawsuit and won a lawsuit. Meaning, do you ever want to go to litigation? No. The only thing you know in litigation is that attorneys make money.
Mr. White has said now.
Well, one last thing. I'd like to make an amendment to the motion to remove section 3 and 4 from the agreement.